Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in and welcome back to the WTP Sports Podcast. I got my main man, the legendary Ohio native, Mr. Robert Brown. How you doing this morning, my man?
Man, I'm doing fantastic on this Saturday morning, ready to get into everything that Saturday has to offer for us today. We got our fantasy football draft today. We're going to dethrone my man post game, who was our national champion last year, or our champion last year.
Yeah, I'm excited about the fantasy football draft for sure, man. It's like and so it begins. You know what I mean? Like, another title defense for me, and I'm definitely looking forward to drafting with you guys later on today. So, man, I mean, college football. We ran through a lot of rankings lately. We starting to get the team previews going. Man, how do you feel today, specifically about the Texas Longhorns?
I mean, I still feel really, really strong about the Texas Longhorns and what I think they're going to be this season. For everyone, you want your team to go through fall ball without any significant injuries. Of course, Texas has some little minor injuries with some of their key players on the left side of the line. And then, of course, we hear that Ty Anthony Smith is no longer with the team. The junior linebacker that we expected to have or do big things this season. But overall, I think Texas is figuring out who their 2 and 3 deeps are going to be. They got a lot of talent on their roster, and right now it's an opportunity for some players who may not have been getting some reps to get an opportunity to show the coaches what they can do, what they understand about the scheme, with a possibility of them getting some playing time down the stretch. Because if you plan on winning the national title, that means you're going to play 15 to 16 games, and you want to have players who can give your starters some valuable minutes of rest. And I think Texas has that on their roster.
For sure, man. I'm excited about your Longhorns myself. Yeah, just a quick question for you guys before we get started, my man. Like, how confident are you when it comes to the Ohio State game?
I'm ultra confident because the thing that you know about the history of Steve Sarkisian is whenever he has a quarterback that has been in his system for a second year and they play in that game, like you seen a couple of years ago against Alabama, they fare really, really well in those games. And I think Arch Manning being his second year in the system at home at that, I think they're going to be play really, really well. I think Ohio State is still going to be trying to figure out some things defensively with all the talent that they lost on that defensive side of the ball. And I think they still have question marks on that offensive line. And they're going to be going against one of the better defensive lines in the country. I'm ultra confident that Texas can win that game. It will be a really, really good game, but I feel like Texas is at least a 3-point winner in that thing on September the 12th.
No doubt about that, man. Shout out to Leonard Phil in the trap, or excuse me, in the chat. I'm thinking about fantasy football, man. He said yes, so right. So he agrees with you heavy on that right there, brother. But I got some questions for you, man, and we can go ahead and jump into them. So, a Colorado judge issued a restraining order allowing the class of 2022 athletes to return for a fifth year. How you feel about that ruling, man? I got some thoughts on that, but I want to start with you. How do you feel about that ruling?
Well, I mean, I think the NCAA put it out there in a way that this would be allowed to happen. And you got this judge who decided to reinstate some of those players from 2022. I feel like this: if there are players who did not get drafted, did not sign a contract to teams in the NFL, and they want to come back. In a sense, I feel like, hey man, let these young people make some more money so that they can help because they probably don't have a future in football after this point. But then on the other side, I'm thinking about the kids who are already there, who have been fighting all fall camp to solidify themselves at the position that this player might be coming back to. So all in all, I hope that I don't like the rule. I'm going to say that I don't like it. You had an opportunity to go to the NFL. You didn't make it. Go ahead and do whatever you got your degree in, if you got one, or find you a path somewhere else. I don't like it. I'm on to say that those guys need to go on and live their lives and leave this football thing alone. Unless you're gonna go to the Canadian League, you can go do that.
Do it, see, one of the things that bothers me about the ruling is the timing of it. School starts Monday. Training, we've been through training camp, fall camp. People are battling for positions, like you mentioned. It's the timing of it. The timing of it just doesn't sit right to me. It just comes off as stupid. I'm trying to think back, and I'm like, man, when did this start? Because maybe if this started sometime around the national champion or after the national championship game, maybe I feel a little better about it. I don't know if I like this, man. I just don't. These guys have not been. Some of them are in NFL training camps and are trying to come back to college football. Some of them have been doing whatever the case may be. The timing of the decision is what bothers me the most. I just don't see, it's not a good situation for a lot of these kids, a lot of these athletes who have gotten to whatever they've gotten into, whether it be the NFL, whether it be having a job, and you just can come back to school, hop in the transfer portal. So I don't, the timing of it, if I gotta say, bothers me the most. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like the timing that you just mentioned. I'm going to give another time and let me know what you think about this, because I really do believe that the timing that they did this, it was horrible for sure. But I mean, I think there should be something in the writing where if you don't get drafted and you're an unrestricted free agent and the team does not sign you, then you got a fifth year that you could get, you can go back to your school and you can be there for spring quarter or whatever, and go through spring. I mean, not spring, but summer uh, uh, session, and do summer conditioning and all of that stuff, and be back with your team. If it doesn't work out for you for the NFL, but if the minute you touch an NFL field and you doing OTAs and all that, and you sign the contract, I think that should be it for you. But like I was saying earlier, if it's a situation where the draft happens, you don't get selected where you want to, you should have an option to go back to school and be there for the summertime. And then that'll you can be with that team all through fall ball and all that stuff. I would like that timetable as well. I like yours even better, but I like that timetable as a solution too.
Yeah, bro, that's kind of absurd to me. Like, you on a practice field for an NFL team, maybe trying to make a team, maybe trying to solidify your place on the depth chart, maybe make the team, whatever the case may be, man. And you look at your phone and a judge reinstates you, and it's like, okay, y'all, I'm going back to college football.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
That doesn't make any sense to me, man. And we would love to get y'all thoughts on this situation in the chat. If you're in the chat, let us know what you thought about this. But one particular player I want to talk about is Tommy Castellanos, former Florida State quarterback, former Boston College quarterback. He enters the transfer portal, and word on the street is, Rob, Texas Tech is the favorite to land him. Now, if he transfers to Tech and um the situation at quarterback with Brandon Sorsby leaving, could you see Tommy Castellanos actually winning this quarterback one job at Texas Tech?
Man, he could possibly win the job. That I will say that he's talented enough to possibly win the job. But if I'm Texas Tech, dude, you just went through the whole Brendan Sorsby thing at quarterback. Why would you invite another situation at quarterback in a room that already got two guys who are battling for that starting position? Then you're gonna bring in a third guy, and we all know Tommy Castellano was doing that probably because he still loves to play football, but ultimately it's about getting another check, man. Being able to go to a university that we know got some serious dollars and cents that are going to give you another bag of money, man. And I really feel like Texas Tech should not even be entertaining this, but it sounds like they are. I don't think he's going to win the position because I think the reality is the quarterbacks that they have already on that roster, already been in that system, are more suited to go ahead and start this season than Tommy Castellano is. He had some bright spots last year, but ultimately he wasn't what Florida State needed. They probably should have went in a different direction. It got a younger player some more playing time because they weren't playing well at all last year.
For sure, man. Shout out to Andres Mogul. We appreciate you being here, homie. And shout out to another living legend. This one from the good city of South Bend, Indiana. Mr. Wiz, my pop. How you doing this morning, pop? Hope all is well. Yeah, Rob, I is can he beat out Will Hammond? Is the question for me. How is he in football shape? I never was like blown away by Tommy Castellanos. I do believe he brings like a Russian element to the quarterback position that could benefit Texas Tech as they try to make the college football playoffs again, possibly even win the Big 12. We know that defense is going to be lights out. But it's just interesting, man, because for you to for the news to break that Texas Tech is the favorite to land Tommy Castellanos, that means there's been communication between Texas Tech and Tommy Castellanos and his representatives, right? So are they is Texas Tech confident in Will Hammond? That's what pops up in my head. Like, are they confident in their quarterback room? Do they think Tommy Castellanos could take this team further? I don't know. Let us know what you think in the chat because that's very interesting to me. I wasn't the highest on Tommy Castellanos. He had some good games, but all in all, I don't think he's one of the better quarterbacks and available. But we'll see what happens, man. You got any closing thoughts on Tommy Castellanos to Texas Tech?
Go get your job, bro. Go get your job. Or start a business. Either or.
That is crazy, man. That's really interesting. That's something I got my eye on because that could shift the Texas Tech or the Texas Tech BYU Houston that Big 12 league, depending on what happens at the quarterback position. Let's talk about an SEC guy, Diego Pavia. I think he was in college for 7 years. Was it 7 years? I know he was in the class of 2020, 6 or 7 years, whatever case may be. But does he have a good case to come back to college football? And would you want to see him come back to college football?
I'm gonna say he does not have a good case, but when you look at this ruling, yeah, he has a good case. I do not want to see him get back in college football. I think that thing is done. Like you said, he's been there 7 years or at least six, and he got the COVID year. So that already gave him an extra year. He's already been in college long enough to where he's done all that he could possibly do for NFL scouts to be able to see what kind of talent he is. He's probably not an NFL caliber quarterback. He need to also go ahead and go on to the next chapter in his life. We really loved what he did at Vanderbilt. We got those memories, but it's time to move on from that. And I think Diego Pavia should go ahead and leave that alone. I know all these young people want to go ahead and try to get as much of that bag as they can. if it's possible, yes, he should petition to get another year because you got an opportunity to go chase some money. But all in all, I think the ruling should be no on Diego Pavia.
Now, see, Rob, I agree. I think the ruling should be no, absolutely not. But do you think they will say no? Because these lawsuits is crazy in college football, man. Like these guys are having lawsuits and then they're ruling in their favor. So I mean I don't put it past the judicial system to let a guy like Diego Pavia have another swing at college football. Do you think the judicial system is going to side with Diego Pavia on this?
I think there's enough evidence for them to say, no, Diego, you've exhausted your eligibility. Because if you look at the history of Diego Pavia going up against the NCAA, there's enough evidence there to say, man, you done wore out your eligibility. And I think they'll rule in favor of the NCAA to say, no, Diego, you ran out of eligibility. You can no longer play college football.
See here, I agree with you. I agree with that 100%. I don't even think he should be thinking about coming back to play. I know he was cut by the Baltimore Ravens. Hopefully, he gets another opportunity to make a roster or a practice squad, whatever the case may be. But one of the things I've heard they're trying to do in his case is I played years at junior college. So that shouldn't count towards my eligibility. Do you think that's like something where he can, a little crack in the armor where he can get back in, or do you think they're gonna throw it out ultimately?
I think ultimately they're gonna throw it out. Like I said earlier, just too much. There's already too much evidence there. There's already too much that they've been through with Diego Pavia. Obviously, they're not gonna go back on their decision. In my opinion, I think the courts probably has something to do with him trying to get it before the NFL draft, and it didn't happen. So I think they're going to side with whatever the decision was that forced him to go ahead and declare for the NFL draft. They're going to go that way. I don't think they're going to mess with that. It's too muddy.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Shout out to the living legend, the West Side living legend from South Bend. He says it's getting crazy, like the legend says, go get a job. He also says cut early, CFL may be his ride. Yeah, man, I don't want to see it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he found a way to get back into college football. I hope that doesn't happen. I think he needs to move on, man. He gonna be 35 playing quarterback in college football, man, if they let this stuff continue. He also said he was a Heisman winner.
He was at the Heisman dinner.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was for sure, for sure. For sure. Like his game, I definitely think he's a college football quarterback. I don't know about NFL, but I mean, at some point, man, it's just time to move on. You can't be at college forever playing football. So, Mr. Brown, one of your rivals, Oklahoma, Brent Venables, he signs a new 6-year deal to stay with the Sooners. And I don't know what to think about this because I like Brent Venables, but I don't think he's been great at Oklahoma. He had a good year last year. I don't know if he's going to be able to meet expectations. If you were Oklahoma, would you have signed Brent Venables to this new 6-year deal contract?
I would not. They already gave him one extension. Okay, that one extension, we're into it probably right now. This one is going to go to 2031. Why would you do that when he hasn't shown you that he's going to be able to win the freaking SEC championship game or even be in it? I really feel like when you look at Oklahoma and you look at what is in the SEC, Do we really feel like they're ever going to be able to out recruit or out portal Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M? Now LSU got Lane Kiffin. You know they're going to fall behind them. Alabama. I mean, I just feel like, and even though they got Alabama last year during the regular season, then they lost to them in the playoffs. I really don't feel like it was warranted for them to give him another extension. I really feel like you put yourself in a bind. Now, I understand that you want to have stability there for players who are looking at your program. But to me, it's Oklahoma. You're always going to be able to get some recruits. Now, it's going to be a little tougher now that Texas Tech is some good. Texas A&M is playing really good. Texas is playing good. You got LSU all in that same corridor who are vying for some of those talented players, not to mention people on the outside like Notre Dame and Ohio State. But I just feel like he's not going to be able to compete with those other coaches and what they're doing. So why give him an extension? And the reality is, there's other coaches out there that are up and coming that if he doesn't do the job, that are going to be good candidates for Oklahoma to get, who could possibly do an even better job than Venables does. His defenses have been unbelievable, but he hasn't been able to marriage that offense with his defense, which has been his Achilles heel. Now, of course, the year he had Dylan Gabriel, they beat Texas in that game, and they were okay. But I don't think that they should have gave him an extension. Not yet. He hasn't proven that he deserves an extension. At least not that second one.
I agree. Shout out to the legend. He said he will be fired and they will buy him out. He can't win in that SEC. When when I look at Brent Venables and his with his tenure at Oklahoma, it looks very Brian Kelly-ish. That this is something Brian Kelly would do. 6-7 in 2022, 10-3 in 23, 6-7 in 24, and then last season he's 10-3. I mean, it's mediocre. It's mediocre at best. And I like Brent Venables. I think he's a good coach. I don't know if I can call him a great coach. His defenses normally are awesome, but I just think teams are jumping the gun because, and we'll get to this, so I don't want to talk about it, but I just don't understand. Like, is he? I agree with you 100%, Rob. Is he going to out recruit these other SEC teams? What was it that triggered the administration to say, okay, Brent, we love what you're doing. We're going to sign you to another contract. Like, I don't get that part, because if you were going to do this, I would want to see what kind of team and how he fared this current season before I ponied up on him. But that's just my thoughts on it. I mean, I can't blame the man for the job security, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But speaking on that, does this mean Oklahoma will not part ways with Venables if he has a bad year this upcoming season?
I mean, I really feel like they put themselves in a bad position now, because now the buyout is going to be even more because you extended this guy. I don't think that they will fire him after this year, because I think they got all their marbles in the bag on this one. But I think after this year, though, the closer they get to 2031, the more likely it is that he'll get fired if he doesn't perform well. But I think they want to get as close as possible to 2031. So I don't see him getting fired after this year. If they have a bad season, I don't see it.
What if they start 2-5?
There will be a whole lot of murmuring for his head. Like I said, they just put themselves in a bad position. And you talked about timing earlier, and this is the worst timing that you was talking about. That was some horrible timing. It's 2-5. Listen, 2-5, and you lose to Texas again? Maybe so. Maybe so.
Yeah, that Red River is crazy. Man, shout out to the legend in the chat. He said Kelly was way better. Kelly got us there. I mean, yeah, if you look at it like that, Kelly did get us to the national championship game. My question to you on that, Pop, is should we have been in that game? I don't know. I'm not sure we should have made it to that national champion. We made it, and I'm happy, but we had no business on the field against Alabama that year. So, um, speaking of coaches, Mr. Brown, can you see any head coaches a la a James Franklin or Brian Kelly being fired early to mid-season this upcoming year?
Yeah, two names come to my mind right off the bat. Norvell at Florida State. I think that if he starts off, like you said about Oklahoma, 2-5, I think even before it gets to 2-5, he's going to be out of there. And then when you look at South Carolina's coach, Beamer, Shane Beamer, I think he's another one. I think the South Carolina faithful are in a position where they're like, listen, it's too many really, really good young coaches up and coming that we could go and pluck from Arizona State or another school and not keep going through this thing and at least give him an opportunity to try to build this thing in the SEC. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the SEC has become one of those conferences now where it's not just Alabama, not just LSU and Georgia. Now you throw in the Texas in the mix. Now Texas A&M. Since NIL has become what it's become and the transfer portal has become what it's become, you can't afford to fall further and further and further back because these teams have serious backing, moolah, and they got the rich history. So South Carolina is really in a bind right now, and I think that they'll probably have to, especially you got Lenore Sellers, you better make something happen. And you got that dynamic wide receiver. You got a good defensive end that's on that team too. You got to make something happen. I don't think they're going to be in the top 5 or 6 in the SEC. So I think he's probably one of those ones that's going to get the axe early on.
Let me ask you this, man. It's it's a few coaches, excuse me, that I think are kind of on the hot seat coming into the football season. From a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hottest, I want you to tell me how hot their seat is. Mike Norvell, scale 1 to 10.
Oh, it's 10. It's 10.
He on fire, huh?
He's on fire, yes.
How about Lincoln Riley?
Ooh, Lincoln Riley has got to at least be a 7, possibly even an 8.
Do you think he has to make the college football playoffs to keep his job?
I'm a firm believer when you bring in a former head coach and a defensive mind like Gary Patterson, and you do not make the college football players now they're in a really tough conference, but he has to make the college football playoffs, man. Otherwise, bro, it's really gonna be hot. Because the reality is, they're not complaining about his offense; it's his defense. And the murmuring I'm hearing is because he doesn't practice well defensively, and he doesn't give his defensive coaches the leeway to teach the defense like they need to be taught.
Bro, this all I'm gonna say about Lincoln Riley. They played Notre Dame last year in South Bend in the rain, bad weather conditions, and they were playing two high safeties against Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, bro. Unbelievable. My pop give him a 6. How about Dave Aranda?
Ooh, Dave Renner got to be at least a 9. Listen, all his chips is pushed into the middle of the poker table on DJ Lagway, bro. It's got to be a 9.
100%. 100%. Bill Belichick.
Ooh, it's North Carolina though. You know what I'm saying? North Carolina ain't never gonna be no football school. And you got a big name like Bill Belichick. You probably don't. I'm gonna say five, five for Belichick.
5 for Bill. Okay, how about Luke Fickle?
Oh, Fickle, that's a good one. I thought Luke Fickle should have been fired. I'm gonna say nine on Luke Fickle, and it's
Deion
not gonna
Sanders.
be easy for them either because they in the Big Ten and they got a schedule that's not gonna be the easiest.
A lot of people think the reason why Luke Fickle was so successful at Cincinnati was because of his coordinators, being
Yeah,
Marcus
yeah.
Freeman, Mike Denbrock. A lot of people think that's the reason why he was so successful, and it makes sense because obviously he doesn't have those coordinators anymore. How about Deion Sanders, prime time?
Man, Dion. I'm gonna be honest with you, man, and I like Deion Sanders. He's never going to be able to be what he needs to be at Colorado. They don't probably don't want to fire him because of the name and the brand, but he's not producing the results on the field. I think he's about an 8 or 9 as well.
Really? So that's
Yeah,
pretty hot.
yeah, that's
I
pretty
don't,
high.
I don't think as long as he doesn't go out and win 2 or 3 games, I don't think they want to fire him, Rob. I honestly
I,
don't.
I agree with you. They don't want to fire him. I think they're just going to have to because, for one, I don't think he wants to settle for mediocrity. And I don't think Colorado, and I said this when he first got there, Colorado is never going to be a place that's going to be world beaters. He had his son and he had Travis Hunter first year in the Big 12, and they were able to make a little bit of noise. But when we seen they had to play against some of the better teams in that conference, they struggled on that backstretch and end up not making it to that championship game. And I think the writing is on the wall for Colorado. Those players who play for him, they love being there with him and they love who he is. But I just don't think Colorado is a place he's going to be able to produce the greatness that we believe Deion Sanders is.
How about Mike Loxley from Maryland?
It's Maryland, man. So you know what I'm saying. Who else you gonna get? It's Maryland. They're a basketball school. I would say maybe a 6.
4-8, 4-8 last 2 years. I think his seat is extremely hot for sure. Um, so let's move on, man, and I'm anxious to get your thoughts on this because I'm excited. College football is right around the corner, man. We like a week or two away. Any first game, like not it doesn't have to be nurse. It doesn't necessarily have to be week 0, but any first game of the season matchups that you are really looking forward to watching.
I'm really looking forward to that Louisville Ole Miss game. I want to see because both of those teams, one of which Texas plays, so I want to see what they're looking like uh, because they face Texas later on in the season. But Louisville is one of those teams that we've been pretty high on. We got them as a top 3 team in the ACC. How they show in this game will give us and I know it's only the first game, but it will at least give us a projection on what they might look like later on in the season when they face SMU, which is probably their main contest in the ACC. So that's one for me for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was the best, first game of the matchup in college football. I'm anxious to see these Louisville Cardinals, Lincoln Kingholes in particular, because I feel like if he can figure it out and really run the Browns offense, I think the Louisville team can be a playoff team. I really do. You look at the weapons they've accumulated, the coaching staff that they have, those edge rushers coming off the edge. They even got a really good cornerback. I think Louisville can be the sneaky team this year that sneaks into the college football playoffs. But that first game, against Mississippi is going to tell us everything we need to know, because that is not an ideal starting game of the season for a team like Louisville. And they can either surprise everybody and get the W, or they can be blown away, because Trinidad Chandler is no joke himself. So, what about the North Carolina TCU game? Do you think this is a must win for Bill Belichick?
I think it's a winnable game for him, especially to get a TCU team early in the season who was really trying to find out where they are after losing Josh Hoover. I think it is. I think it's a game that can really set the tone for North Carolina season if they can beat a Power Four team from the conference across the way from them in the Big 12. We all feel like those are the bottom two conferences when we look at the Power Four. That's a win that Bill Belichick has to have his guys go out there, play hard, have a good showing with a possibility of winning it.
How about Colorado, Georgia Tech?
This is an opportunity for Deion Sanders, who we spoke about a little bit earlier, to let the world know: are you turning the page on Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders and yielding a team that's going to be able to compete in your conference? And I think this is a good matchup for them. We know Georgia Tech isn't the Georgia Tech from last year, but they still got some very key pieces, man. They get Justice Haynes from Michigan, who was at Alabama before that. So they're getting a really talented running back. Can Colorado stop the run and be able to pull out a win there? I think that's a really good matchup as well.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that Colorado defense game one of the year. What kind of run defense are they going to have? Can they stifle that running attack that Georgia Tech deploys? The trenches for Colorado is going to be key for me. I don't think Colorado is going to be a 10-win, 9-win team. I don't think they are. I just don't. But I want to see what those trenches look like, because if those trenches are anything close to being solid, then I think Colorado is going to be a player in the Big 12. Not to win it, but to finish in the top five, I think they can with that go offense, Julian Lewis, Danny Scudero, and guys like that. So that first game against Georgia Tech, I'm excited for that, and that's going to tell us a lot, and I can't wait for it. Any other games you anxious to see from week one?
Well,
I don't think week one, like last year, week one was a little more exciting to me because you had your Longhorns and Ohio State. I don't think we have any big games like that this year.
no, I mean, last year we thought the LSU Colorado game, I'm not Colorado, Clemson game was going to be good, and we have that again, I think, this year. But that game wasn't any good, and I don't expect it to be much better this year. But that Friday slate, I'm very interested in that Friday slate because you get to see a glimpse of Darian Mensah in Miami against Stanford. You get to see this USC team that we talked about earlier against Fresno State. So I'm anxious to see those two. There's another game on there. I think it might be Oklahoma and somebody that Oklahoma is playing. So that Friday slate is going to be a really interesting slate to at least get a glimpse of what some of these teams look like, and they're not all crowded around a Saturday slate. So I'm anxious to see what that Friday slate turns out to be.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna break this game down, but I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. Like, how do you see that LSU Clemson game going?
Man, it's I really feel like not Lincoln Riley, but Lane Kiffin is one of those coaches that, and also Dabo Sweeney, one of those coaches that they are going to go into this game to look to try to embarrass their opponent. So I think that LSU is probably the better team, especially if that quarterback is healthy. His name slips my mind right now. But if he's healthy and he can go, I think that LSU is the better team. A team I'm going to be watching as well because they're on Texas schedule uh, during the back half of the season. But
Sam Levitt.
Sam Levitt, yeah. I don't know why I always want to call him Will Levis. Um, but Sam Levitt, if he's healthy, I really want to see what they can do. I think it's going to be a pretty boring game, though, overall.
Really? I man,
Yeah.
see the question, like I don't man, like I think Clemson has some talent on that team. They definitely got some ballers. They lack of experience at quarterback bothers me a little bit, but I like the fact that they went out and brought their OC back to Clemson, who was very successful years ago when he was on the coaching staff. Dabo Sweeney goes back and brings him back. So I want to see the effect that has on this Clemson team. LSU, man, we've been talking about LSU all off season. We know the kind of talent they were able to accumulate and keep on that team. Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss comes over from Mississippi. I want to say this is the most interesting matchup, first game of the season. I really do because you just don't know what you're getting from those two teams. Is LSU going to be the juggernaut like their talent suggests? And what is Clemson? We just don't know what Clemson is, Rob.
Yeah.
So you got any closing thoughts on that matchup?
I hope they give us a good showing because I'm going to tune in for at least a little bit to see what it's looking like.
For sure, for sure. So I I know we had a show on this. I believe Mossberg had a show on this, but I wanted to ask you because as time changes, maybe our opinion changes on certain things. But are there any under the radar quarterbacks that you think is going to jump off this year, a la Trinidad Chambliss? Nobody's seen Trinidad coming. Do you see any quarterbacks like that in college football?
Well, I don't know about Trinidad being like Trinidad Chambers, but a quarterback that I'm gonna have my eye on this season comes from that group of five set of teams. When you talk about Owen McCown over there at UTSA, UTSA, I feel like it's going to be one of those group of five teams that we talked about. Louisville possibly getting that spot. We talked about Boise State possibly getting that spot. I think UTSA is another one. And when you think about Owen McCown at UTSA, he started his career at Colorado. He's been at UTSA for the last 3 years. He's thrown for over 10,000 yards. And in his last two seasons, he had 25 touchdowns and 30 touchdowns to only, I think, 5 and 7 interceptions. I really feel like this guy can really take the next step for UTSA and really show NFL scouts and have UTSA in a position because they play a really good schedule. They play some good competition early in the season that's going to help them when they get into conference play. So I'm going to be watching him really closely, man. I mean, you throw for 10,000 yards. Now, granted, he's already played 4 years and got playing time in each of those 4 years. But I think Old McCown is a guy that I'm going to keep my eye out on because I think he has a good chance of being one of those quarterbacks that we're talking about at the end of the season. Not necessarily with the big boys, but we were talking about the group of five teams.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That would be Steve and Jelly, peanut butter and jelly, who you talk about for Syracuse. Yeah, Rob, a guy that you know interests me is Drake Lindsay from Minnesota. 6'5", over 200 pounds, rocket launcher for an arm. Man, watching Drake Lindsay from last year, that dude made some unbelievable throws in that pocket. Really, really great to watch. If you like watching quarterback play, the NFL scouts are drooling about him. They're expecting him to take a step forward, and he definitely has to take a step forward this upcoming season because all of his big statistical gains were against bad teams. When he stepped up to play against Iowa, against Ohio State, he looked terrible. And that could be the result of them having a less talented team in the Big Ten. But we'll see what happens this year because I really like Drake Lindsey, his size, his arm strength. He has to work on his pocket awareness and his touch. But man, if you go back and watch Drake Lindsey, the quarterback, starting quarterback from Minnesota, he dropped some absolute dimes, Rob. Dropped them in a bucket down the field for touchdowns. And I think that's a guy, if he's been working, and getting better, he could really take off and not only be one of the better quarterbacks in college football, but improve his draft stock drastically. So Drake Lindsey, Minnesota Golden Gopher, that's a quarterback. I don't think none of the casual fans are really looking at, but diehards like us, we know about Drake Lindsey. Of course, the NFL and their scouts know about Drake Lindsey. So that's a guy I got my eye on. You got anything else, my man?
Nope, I don't got anything else on that topic at least.
You got anything else you want to hit on?
I wanted to ask you about, we look at all of these things that's happening in college football in terms of, the timing. Do you ever think that they're going to sit down and say to themselves, we need to get a committee of people together who know college football's ins and outs, all the quirks and all that, and finally get the freaking calendar together, man? The calendar is ridiculous, and everybody knows it. Coaches are talking about it, but why haven't they been able to sit down and get it fixed? Do you think they just want to keep things the way it's always been because of tradition, or is it all about money?
Yeah, I want to think that it's all about the money. Vast majority of the time, you want to know something or know why something is the way it is. You just got to look and follow the money. That's all. The calendar has been a mess, bro. And I know I've heard you talking about the calendar for years, and that's definitely something that frustrates me as a college football fan. Like it seems like such an easy fix. Why is this so difficult? Fix the calendar.
Yeah,
But I mean, I just don't have much faith in, the powers that be in college football. Like this debate gonna go on for another 3 to 5 years before something is done. I don't know. That's just how I think about it.
yeah. It just seems like it's the noise is so loud about the calendar. You would think that would take precedence and they would fix it, but apparently, like you said, it must be all about the money, man, and they don't think that they're gonna want to mess with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Before we get out of here, I gotta ask you, like, who do you see being the top running back at Texas? And not only the top, but how do you kind of see the roles when you talk about Hollywood Smothers and Relief Brown?
Well, when they're they're almost similar, but there are a lot of differences. I think third down is going to be Raleek Brown out there because I think he's a better pass catcher and he has more wiggle. But when it comes to first and second downs that Texas is going to look to try to run on either one of those downs, I think it's going to be Hollywood Smothers. I think Hollywood Smothers is going to be running back 1A, and then Malik Brown will be running back 1B. First and second down, I think it's going to be mainly Hollywood Smothers. But when it comes to third down and the dynamics of Malik Brown, man, he's going to give defenses hell. And if you watch Texas back when they had Bijan and Rojo, and then when they had Jonathan Brooks and Jaden Blue, they made things hard for teams because defensively it's hard to match up when you got a running back who can also pass block, you can also get out there in passing routes, and you can move Riddick Brown. You can go from 10 personnel, um, and then go to zeros, and you know what I'm saying, and have nobody in there and put him out in pass routes like they did with Bijan several times, and it's really a nightmare then. I think the book is wide open for Steve Sarkisian because of these two running backs.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm huge on that Texas running back room. I think Willie Brown's your best running back, though. I
I think
personally
he's the
do.
best too. I think he's the best too. I just in between the tackles on the first and second downs, Hollywood Smothers might be better for what they want to do on first and second down.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I'm not sleeping on Hollywood either. Two really, man, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I mean, and I don't want to get in too deep into your Longhorns, but I just got questions, man, because it's an interesting team, and I know your team preview is coming up. But let me ask you this final question before we get out of here. What kind of statistical season and season in general do you expect from Arch Manning?
What the phenomenal thing about this is they have his stat line as when it comes to betting 3,100 passing yards, 25 and a half TDs. And I feel like the 3,100 passing yards regular season is probably very doable. The 25 touchdowns, on the other hand, is a little bit hard to predict. But I think for sure he's going to throw for over 3,100 yards. The thing that concerns me about having 25 plus TDs, and I think in another show I said he would have at least 27 to 30 TDs, and I still think he will have that, but not throwing wise. Passing, because you mentioned those two running backs, I think Texas is in a position with those two running backs to run the ball more in the red zone than they have been in the past. So I think he's going to go for at least 3,100 yards, and I think he's going to pass for at least 24 touchdowns and probably run for another 4 or 5. Um, the thing that I think he's going to really improve on is early on in the season, he won't have those interceptions, even though he did throw two in their scrimmage last week. I think he's just facing some really, really talented guys out there. And we got to remember, he's coming off of that foot injury where he didn't have any spring practice. So he's been trying to catch up with his wide receivers during the off time to try to get for them to jail. But I think he'll have at least 24 passing TDs and at least another 4 or 5 rushing TDs. He'll probably pass for about 68% completion percentage, and he'll probably have somewhere around 300 yards rushing.
I think those are that's a little conservative, Mr. Brown. Those are a
It,
little.
only because of those running backs, bro. Only because of those running backs.
So you don't believe Arch Manning will be a Heisman candidate?
He's going to be a Heisman candidate because of the fact that Texas will probably be winning a lot of games and the fact that he's Arch Manning. You know, we seen a Heisman Trophy winner last year had stats that were probably the worst quarterback stats we've ever seen in the history of the Heisman, and he won it. I just think that there's so many talented weapons around him, and because of that running back room, man, they're not going to put as much on Arch Manning as we seen put on him last year. And he'll just be able to go out there and become a really efficient quarterback, which is probably better for him anyway than it's have to listen every week them talking about him being the front runner for the Heisman.
Yeah, I see. I think the only thing I think is going to be higher than you're predicting is his passing touchdowns, and the reason why is because when you got a big body receiver like Coleman, and we talked about the running backs who defenses have to account for on every down, passing or running. I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunities to for those wide receivers, especially in the red zone. Yeah, that dude has unless he's going up against guys like Leonard Moore, Coleman is a matchup nightmare for just about everybody. And I know we talked about this probably months back, but if there's any receiver in the country who can challenge Jeremiah Smith outside of Tony from Miami for WR1 on the season, it's Cam Coleman. That dude's a freak of nature, and I'm excited to see him. You got
Yeah,
anything on that?
I,
No?
I really like Cam Coleman too, and this is the thing, man, and I'm probably am thinking a little bit too conservative because when you think about Steve Sarkisian and what he really wants to do, he really wants to do what you've seen him do with Devontae Smith and them back when they won that national championship game, man. When they had the quarterback that sat on the bench for a long time and he finally got his chance to play. His name escapes me right now. But he wants that thing to be wide open. He wants it to be an offense that's 50-50 run and pass, but he really likes the deep ball, man. So if the running game is clicking, you might be right about that touchdown thing. I just hope that when they get to the red zone, they're able to run the football as opposed to having to look to pass it because the offensive line isn't opening up holes for and running lanes for the running backs. But I probably am being a little bit too conservative. I really like Cam Coleman. Ryan Wingo has been catching the ball really well. Emmett Mosley, I like that threesome. But then there's some guys behind them that we're going to be really impressed with. And normally Steve Sarkisian doesn't open up the wide receiver room in that circle of trust to a lot of guys, but I think there's at least six guys that we're going to get to see really play a lot of football if they stay healthy. Especially when you start about Sterling Bocarter is going to get some run. Jermaine Bishop is going to get some run. Dylan McCutcheon is going to get some run. And if Lockett can get healthy and stay healthy, him and McCutcheon, I think that those two can get an opportunity to get some touches as well.
Yeah, man. Texas is, man, one of the more interesting teams in college football. I can't wait to see, what Steve Sarkisian has in store for the people and the fans in Austin. Shout out to Time, man. How you doing, brother? We appreciate you being on with us this morning. He said if things go right for Arch Manning, he should have one of the best seasons. I agree with that 100%. And you know what, Time, man? We about to get out of here, but if you ever want to cook, let me know, man, or let us know, man. We shoot you the link, man. We'd love to have you up here with us cooking because we know you have a lot of college football knowledge, a lot of football knowledge, period. So if you ever want to cook with the homies, man, let us know. And I don't have anything else, Mr. Brown. You got anything else before we get out of here?
I don't have anything else. He said, "You sound real concerned. Are you a fan of the Texas Longhorns?" Because most people that sound conservative are fans. I mean, I'm yeah, I'm a huge Texas Longhorns fan for 50 years. You know what I mean? Since I was 7 years old, seeing Earl Campbell play back in the days. For me, I don't want to sound like some of my Ohio State buddies, man. It feel like my team is invincible, and I don't know if you're a Ohio State fan or not, but some of my Ohio State fans, man, they feel like their stuff don't stink, you know, and I
Yeah.
don't want to sound like that.
You gonna know exactly what we're talking about because you're doing a team preview with the Ohio State guys tomorrow morning. So, but Time, you read my mind because that's what I was thinking. Like, Mr. Brown don't want to take it there because he wants his team to do well and they got the pieces to do well. So I understand what angle he looking at it from, but I think that Arch Manning and those guys are going to cook. And he also said, "There we go. There we go. Say what you feel. They have an opportunity to win the national championship, sir." I seen her show play too. My favorite running back played at Georgia, Terrell Owens. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Notre Dame guy, but here's the thing for me, and this is where I kind of feel Rob at. If I feel like Notre Dame has the best team, I'm gonna say Notre Dame has the best team. If I feel like Notre Dame is middle of the pack, I'm gonna say Notre Dame is middle of the pack. If I feel like Notre Dame sucks, I'm gonna say Notre Dame sucks. So that's a lot of people think, just because you feel like your team, they'll call homerism because you feel like your team got a really good shot at winning the national championship. That's not how I do it though. Like I really feel like Notre Dame has the best team in the country. I think right, and I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak for him. He doesn't. He doesn't. I don't know if you believe in jinxes, but sometimes I feel like you don't want to jinx your team. You know what I mean? So, but I'll let you.
I do not want to jinx my team. I do not want to put nothing in the atmosphere that's going to keep my team from being the ultimate. Because if you look at the history of Texas, then they have a really tough schedule. Sometimes they play down the competition and they don't look so good. And they always have a game or two on their schedule, a la freaking Florida last year, where they don't play well, man. And I just don't want to jinx my team and get my hopes up too incredibly high, and then they don't do it. Now, when we had that 2005 team, you probably heard a different Mr. Brown back then because Vince Young was all that in a bag of chips. Arch Manning, really good quarterback, but I don't know if he's Vince Young.
For sure, for sure. And Time said he was talking about Terrell Davis, man. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all this morning. I appreciate the chat. Shout out to the chat. One last thing, he said my he played when my pops told me you talked all the trash when you have a great team because the Lord has it already written. There's a chance they can win. There's a chance they can lose. I 100% agree with that. But man, we appreciate the chat. We appreciate everybody tuning in, smashing that like button, subscribing. I appreciate the legendary Mr. Brown for joining me this morning. You can check us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mr. Brown is going to be reviewing the Ohio State Buckeyes and their season preview. And anything else before we get out of here? No. All right, man. As we always do, we out of here. Peace.